where best friends and next-door neighbors, Willow and Lillian, spill the tea on murder, mysteries, and other things that go bump in the night. So get your favorite teacup ready, and let's get into it. Welcome to Cruelty Podcast. This is Lillian, and with me is Willow.
Hello.
Hello. This is still Murderers Who Are Children Month. I just would like to say this month is hard to research.
Yes, it is.
I feel scarred for fucking life, and this case is no exception. I'm not even going to chit-chat because, but I will tell you the trigger warnings. This is the case of Eric Smith. Child death, detailed description of injuries, child-on-child sexual assault, child sexual assault, animal death, and animal abuse.
Okay.
It's just all bad. So, Eric Smith was born on January 22nd, 1980 in Savona, New York. And this is a very small town. He grew up with his mother, Tammy, his stepfather, Ted, and his two other siblings. Tammy was pregnant with Eric when she divorced his biological father, Randy. And she had a daughter from that relationship named Stacy, so his older sister. And it's important that the family dynamic's a little confusing, but it is important that we go over it because it does play into his development later, obviously.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So Randy, what happened is that Randy claimed that Eric wasn't his son.
Gotcha.
And they went while they were going through the divorce. Yeah. And so a paternity test was ordered, and he was indeed his father, but he just rejected him. He did not want him. He wanted nothing to do with him. He wanted to maintain a relationship with Stacy, his daughter, but he wanted nothing to do with Eric. And the divorce was messy and drawn out, but it was ultimately decided he would just have nothing to do with Eric. He basically gave up his rights. Right before the divorce was final, Tammy met Ted Smith, and they married shortly after her divorce. Ted adopted Eric because of Randy wanting nothing to do with him, so he stepped up to the plate.
Right, and he was basically an infant at that time anyway.
Yeah, he was, or I think it was even right before he was born.
Oh, goodness, that was quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, growing up, Eric believed that Ted was his biological father. And this is important for later, so just put a little pin in that. Also, Tammy was an epileptic, and she was on anticonvulsants, which makes you not have seizures, and she continued to take them while she was pregnant, and it is known that that medication can cause fetal harm.
Like what kind? Do you know?
We will get to it.
Okay.
Yeah, because
okay.
it gave him the harm.
It did affect him.
Now, this was known that it would do this at the time she was pregnant. I do not know if Tammy's doctor just considered the risk worth it so she wouldn't have seizures, because that can make you have a miscarriage.
Right,
obviously.
absolutely.
It can kill you.
Yeah.
I don't know if she knew. I couldn't find it anywhere. I know I wouldn't take any medication that could harm my kid.
Right.
Personally.
Right.
I didn't when I was pregnant, for the record. I don't know also if it was known at this time, although a little research digging around seems to be that it was known that the medication she was on would harm her baby.
But maybe it was played out a little bit different for her, like the way that caffeine could harm a child. But
I think maybe so.
You know.
I just don't want to place this judgment on her without all the information.
Especially her being an epileptic and not wanting to, fucking die. So
I totally understand.
I get both sides.
Yeah, as an epileptic, I totally understand. But by age 2, it became evident that Eric had some developmental delays. He was reaching his milestones much slower than other children his age. And now, just because a child is developmentally delayed obviously doesn't mean that they're going to grow up to be a murderer.
Clearly, yes.
Clearly. But I mention it because I do think it played a role in what happened. Just not in the way you think. I don't know. It wasn't the sole cause, is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. By age 2, he could not walk or talk and wasn't attempting to talk. Mm-hmm. But by age 3, he was doing both. So it was really, in his case, just a delay. But developmental delays weren't the only issue because Eric had behavioral problems even at a very early age. He threw tantrums daily, and they were very violent. Eric would bang his head against the wall or floor over and over, like until he injured himself. He would hold his breath until he nearly passed out or got his way, whichever came first. By the age of 3, Eric developed a fascination with fire. Once he got up in the middle of the night, gathered up a bunch of papers, and turned on the stove and held them there and set fire to them. But he was caught in time.
Thank goodness.
By age 4, Eric's mind fixated on sexual thoughts about girls. Like he was obsessed with it, wouldn't quit talking about it.
Age 4?
Age 4. And so I know what y'all are thinking, because it is what I thought.
Yeah.
There might be some sexual abuse going on.
With the stepfather?
With somebody.
Yeah.
That's what I thought at this point in the research. Because that's kind of a sign.
Well, yeah, children shouldn't be able to understand any of that.
Absolutely not. By age 5, he started regressing by wetting the bed. He wet the bed until he was 11. Now, this is different than a child who has an underdeveloped bladder, who has to wear pull-ups to bed. This is very common in boys. Mm-hmm. Sometimes their bodies outgrow their bladder's capacity, and they will end up wetting the bed, but it's not a behavioral issue. It's physiological. But with Eric, it was behavioral. He was perfectly potty trained till age 5, and that is another red flag for sexual abuse. Mm-hmm. Regression. Yeah. So we've discussed, gosh, and this must have been in our first season, our first year of doing this podcast, something called the controversial McDonald triad.
Yeah.
So what is that? It is a set of 3 behaviors that present in childhood that are considered predictors of later violent behavior. And the 3 are bedwetting, fire setting, and extreme cruelty to animals. By age 5, Eric was displaying 2 of the 3, and he does complete the triad later.
And just to be clear, the triad isn't really something that's used today.
It is not. Yeah. I mention it because every time I listen to anything about this case, it is brought up. Mm-hmm. So if you are going to go and do your own research, because I know that sometimes when I listen to a podcast, I'll go Googling and looking up stuff.
Absolutely.
So I didn't want to leave it out for that reason. Mm-hmm. Like, why didn't Lillian mention this? However, it is important to mention that it is no longer something used as a predictor of violent behavior, but it was used when this case happened.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Moving on. Eric did have a fascination with harming animals from an early age. By age 9, Eric was a heavy smoker.
9?
9. He smoked a pack a day.
Jesus.
This was likely an attempt to self-medicate mental and behavioral issues. But I would like to ask some questions at this point. There's a couple questions I have.
Where did he get the cigarettes? Who was giving them to him?
Who was giving this child cigarettes? So I started smoking at age 14.
I was 13.
And I got cigarettes by asking older teenagers, because the legal age was 18, that I knew and hung out with, to buy them for me.
Yep.
My parents didn't buy them for me.
No.
So, but clearly his parents are buying them for him. There's no one else that could be buying them for him. Why are they fucking doing this?
His parents?
They had to have.
Oh.
I think he ran the roost. Do you know what I mean with his behavior? Was so disruptive.
He had almost like controlled their entire life up to this point that like
they're just bending so he won't freak out.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. And, another thing is, how is he getting his hands on sexually explicit material to the point where he's obsessed with it by age 4?
I don't want to know why. I really don't.
I think now you guys know, I do not like blaming the parents for the actions of their child.
Or assuming things that we don't have.
We're not privy to the information. However, in this case, there ain't parenting going on. There's no parenting.
Where else is a 4-year-old going to get this stuff?
Mm-hmm. That's my point.
I mean, unless he's being babysat by somebody, but...
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I believe his mom was a stay-at-home mom. And I don't know that for sure because, I get some conflicting information about this case. The parents are... they're a lot. And I'm sure they're used to people pointing the finger of blame at them. But in this case, in this particular issue with the smoking, yeah, it's their fucking fault.
Yeah. That's a 4-year-old.
9. He was 9 by the time. But
Still.
That's a little child. If you can't control a 9-year-old, I don't know what's going on in your life. I just don't want to come off being judgy, but I am discerning, and I discern that this is bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
When Eric started school, things got worse. Eric was bullied really badly. He was the school's whipping boy. It wasn't just the usual bullies, like everyone gets bullied a little bit, but it was the whole school. He was developmentally slower. He was held back in the 1st and 5th grade. His behavior was disruptive and awkward at best. Because of his delayed development, by the time he was 13, it was said that he had the mind of an 8-year-old. So this caused him to stick out, and we all know how that goes in school. He was relentlessly and cruelly teased. Eric also had a speech defect. It was physiological, so that every time he spoke, it would cause him to drool uncontrollably.
Oh.
This made the teasing even worse. And though this was corrected when he was 9, the damage was already done, and they never let him live it down. But the main thing he got teased about was his appearance.
Yeah.
Eric had thick, bright red hair and freckles. His ears had a slight deformity, which made them sit lower on his head and kind of stick out. And his eyesight was so bad that he had to wear very, very thick glasses. Of course, that's not a good reason to bully someone.
Right, but in the 80s and 90s, that was kind of
that is exactly what my notes say.
That is the poster child for who to bully. You know what I mean? Like
it is
kind
just
of iconic.
Just now changing to where we teach our kids, hey, don't bully based on appearance. Don't bully anyone ever for any reason.
Right. Bullying is not cool. It's actually really stupid. Don't do it.
Schools have gotten stricter on it. Probably all the school shootings.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
But back then, nobody helped him.
No, bullying was like borderline encouraged back then because of
Yes.
the comedy and like the sitcoms and everything like that.
Yeah.
They made it funny.
They did. It was funny to pick on the redheaded kid.
Yes, absolutely.
Like it was a trope.
Yes.
If you watch like a bunch of like comedies from the 80s and 90s,
like wholesome family comedies,
they will pick on relentlessly either the fat kid or the kid with the red hair.
And the glasses.
Yeah. Poor Maris was a chubby kid who had thick glasses growing up, and he was just tortured at school. Tortured. Just pathetic. Eric tried his best to fit in. He tried playing sports even though he wasn't that interested in them. And he tried to hang out where other kids were, but he was completely ostracized. His interest in girls didn't help and didn't go well for him. They would just laugh at him when he expressed his interest, and it was often inappropriate. He fell into a terrible depression because of the bullying. There are accounts of him marking out his face in school pictures and in the yearbook. And that was really sad to me.
That is really sad.
He doesn't even want to exist at this point.
God.
You know what I mean? He's like erasing himself. He was just full of self-loathing and rage. Mm-hmm. So much rage. His home life wasn't roses either. He started getting teased by a bully at school that told him that his stepfather, Ted, wasn't his real dad. And if you remember, Eric believed that Ted was his biological father. He didn't know his real father abandoned him and that Ted adopted him. He'd been raised to believe that Ted was his dad. It was during this period that Eric's mother told him that Ted wasn't his real father.
And his real father was like going to see his daughter all the time. So he knew who he was.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's in the notes next. His older sister, Stacy, saw her dad all the time. Mm-hmm. He came and picked her up. Mm-hmm. So he was on a first-name basis with Randy. Mm-hmm. He knew him very well. Mm-hmm. And when he found out that was his actual father, his feelings of abandonment, self-loathing, isolation, and being victimized just became out of control for him.
Yeah.
And I mean, can we blame him?
Understandably.
I can't believe they did that to this child.
I can't believe that, man. That's disgusting.
The thing is as a parent, like I'm being the mom. I'm trying to be the mom. Like, what would I do? Number one, I would have told him ages ago.
Yeah.
Ages ago.
Yeah.
Kids can understand things.
Especially if they understand, like, that they're still loved regardless of the actual situation and the truth of it.
And, another thing I'd like to point out is I wouldn't have let the exchange of visits go on in front of him.
Exactly.
Take her to fucking McDonald's and have him pick her up there. If you can't acknowledge your son, you're not welcome in my home.
Mm-hmm.
I get court orders, and she probably had to let him see Stacy, but
to flaunt it in front of his own son,
it's so sick that I can't cope with it. Yeah, so this rejection really fucked him up. Yeah. Ted, we think right now, he's a great dad. He has stepped up. He adopted a boy who isn't even his own flesh and blood. Nope, this guy's a fucking monster. He was emotionally and physically abusive to Eric. Witnesses would see him pulling at him, kicking him, slapping him, and if he's that bold to do that in front of his neighbors, I can't even imagine what he did behind closed doors. Can't even imagine it. It is also, now this is alleged, so I will say that to not get in trouble, but it is alleged that Ted beat up Tammy too. He was abusing. I believe that 100%. Yeah. The guy was said to have a hair trigger temper, and he would just fly off the handle at neighborhood kids. He would throw shit at them if they came in his yard. He was just not a nice man. Ted was also sexually abusing Stacy.
Oh my God.
When she was 16, she came forward with her accusations. He'd begun the abuse when she was 11.
So it's definitely, it's probable that he definitely was abusing the boys.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
And Ted ended up admitting to the abuse finally, but he said it only happened once. Oh, that makes it fine, Ted. And instead of kicking his ass to the curb, Tammy just thought they should all go to family counseling. Then she ended up taking his side against her own daughter. Stacy moved out to live with Randy because fucking obviously, where else does she, is she going to go?
Right. That's disgusting.
Jail.
Yeah.
Immediately jail is where Ted should have gone. Because I think it's something. Okay? So if you imagine you're Eric. Number one, everyone fucking hates you.
Yeah.
Your own father doesn't want anything to do with you. The man you believed was your father, that you don't particularly like because he beats the shit out of you, possibly molests you, definitely molested your sister. He doesn't seem to like you very much.
Your mother doesn't protect you.
The mom doesn't. There's no consequences for evil in this house.
Mm-hmm.
Ted got to sexually abuse his stepdaughter.
And beat the shit out of everybody around him.
And he didn't go to jail.
Right. And
there's no consequences.
That's what he has as examples in life.
So why should he do good? Because nothing bad will happen to you if you give in to your base urges.
Mm-hmm.
My empathy is gone for Tammy, by the way. Fuck her. Mothers that don't stand up for their children in this kind of situation make me want to fucking puke. Tammy ended up, like I said, siding with Ted, so Stacy moves out. So it is likely that Ted was also sexually abusing Eric. However, it is important to note both Eric and Ted have denied that ever happened. But the bedwetting, the sexually explicit stuff, I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Yep.
Maybe he's trauma blocked it. I think that's entirely possible.
Absolutely, especially with his condition. Also, I was thinking all of the motions of banging his head and doing and holding his breath. That could cause some serious brain damage.
I thought about that too. I thought about the possibility of head injury.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
By 1993, Eric is 13 and things are going very poorly. He's relentlessly bullied at school and his home life is chaos. Eric found out that his father didn't want him and he's abused by his stepfather emotionally and physically. He turns his depression, anger, and aggression towards small animals. At first, he started killing snakes that he found in the woods around his house. Then he started killing the neighborhood cats. Once, he took a metal vise, put it around a cat's neck, and tightened it slowly and tortured the cat until it died. And Eric knew the neighbor who owned this cat. He was on friendly terms. He waved hello every day. Didn't faze him at all. He felt nothing. And when the neighbor walked out looking for his cat, he saw Eric holding it all dead and bloody. So I'm pointing this out not to be salacious, but because there are like red flags, there's just a sea. There's a sea of red flags everywhere with this child. Like, look at his behavior.
Right.
The smoking.
Yeah.
Sexually explicit stuff. Violent rages. Hurting animals. Setting fires.
Killing a cat in broad daylight, making eye contact with the owner of the cat.
Well, Tammy will sure take her molester husband to therapy. But she won't take her son, her troubled child? Okay.
Wow.
In addition to this troubling behavior, he was becoming more and more antisocial. Eric started lashing out at anyone who came around him. He started bullying other kids, but they were always younger and weaker or, like, disabled. God. Smaller and weaker than him. He self-isolated. He threatened the life of one of his teachers. And again, huge red flags. He's just allowed to continue to go down this dark path with no help from any fucking adult around him, not one. Not one. Not a school counselor. DHS never gets involved. Mm-hmm. And Tammy and Ted are just like, oh, well, that's just boys, I guess. I don't know what to make of this, y'all. It reminds me, and I bring this up so much, the Vampire of Sacramento.
Right.
How many red flags did we get? The guy straight up said, I'm going to kill people, because he was suffering from horrific, like, mental health issues.
Yes. That's essentially what this kid is doing right now.
Yeah. It just makes me
crying
really
for
sad.
help.
Oh my God. So I just don't understand why his parents didn't help him.
Right.
And it's not like there weren't other signs. But even if those had gone unnoticed, Eric told Ted he wanted to hurt people and that he fantasized about killing people. That's not a sign. That's a sledgehammer to the forehead.
Yes.
He was crying for help. The cigarettes were crying for help.
Yes.
His fits and rages, cries for help.
Yes.
Do you know what Ted told him to do?
What?
Well, go punch a punching bag or a tree. You'll feel better.
That's when you're mad. Not when you want to fucking kill people.
Not when you're thinking about murdering folks.
No. That's when you're really frustrated with how shitty your day was. Go punch something.
And even then, I don't think that's good advice.
I mean, I like to punch a punching bag every now and then. That's kind of helpful. Take out the steam.
Well, not a tree. That'd hurt your hand.
That would hurt your hand. Don't punch a tree.
But that's exactly what Eric did. He was so desperate for relief from his dark thoughts, he went out and punched a tree. And nothing happened. It didn't make him feel any better, because obviously not. Because what he needed was guidance, parenting, I don't know, love, care, attention. You didn't get any of that. All of this was heading towards a predictable direction. Even without the benefit of hindsight, I think we can all agree that Eric was going to do something horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And he did. Mm-hmm. To an innocent child named Derrick Robie. Mm-hmm. Derrick was born on October 22nd, 1988. In 1993, he was 4 years old.
Baby.
He lived in the same small town as Eric. Derrick lived with his parents, Dale and Doreen, and his younger brother, Dalton, who was 18 months old at the time.
Derrick, Doreen, Dalton,
and Dale. I think it's cute.
Wow. Oh,
they were a real cute
that's
family.
Really precious.
They were a cute family.
Oh, I don't like that. Okay.
No. Derrick was his nickname in the neighborhood was the mayor, because he would sit outside and wave to everybody.
Oh, no. God damn it, Lillian.
Oh, no.
This is not going to... this is going to break my heart.
Yeah. Derrick was described as a bright, curious, and spirited boy. He loved playing practical jokes on people and was very outgoing. He was a sweet and happy child. He loved his younger brother.
4 years old.
Unlike Eric, he was gentle and well-adjusted. He loved animals so much and was always very soft with them. He, in particular, liked earthworms.
Oh.
And he would collect them and name them.
Oh, God.
Derrick also loved playing t-ball more than anything. It was his favorite.
Oh, honey.
On a Monday, on August 2nd, 1993, Derrick was attending summer camp. He fucking loved summer camp because he got to go play t-ball and got to go hang out with other kids. And On this day, they were running late. Derek's little brother, Dalton, was teething. And you know how that is with a baby. And if
Yes,
you don't,
I do.
they are fussy, they are snotty, they are crying and whining. They'll tug in their little ears.
And they're in so much pain.
They are. And it makes you feel so bad as a mama.
And you're probably not sleeping very much as a mama either.
No, they were running late. They were already 10 minutes late. And Derek was really scared he was going to miss T-ball. So he's pestering his mama a lot as she's trying to tend to the baby.
Yeah.
He's like, please, mama, we got to go. We got to go. And she's like, I got to get your brother ready. And so he said, well, mama, it's not far. I'll walk.
Oh,
and
my
y'all,
God, no.
It's less than a block away.
God.
This is a small town where everybody knows everybody. It was just a bunch of kids running around outside, all of them heading to the park to go to summer camp. Now, she had never let him walk anywhere by himself.
He's 4.
He's 4. And he told her he knew the way and he would be careful. He wouldn't talk to strangers. He was very smart, very clever, a very mature for his age child. And in a moment of weakness, being harried, the baby screaming, she was like, okay, and she would watch out the window. But of course, he does eventually go out of sight. She packed him a little lunch. She let him walk the block to summer camp. At 9:15 a.m., Derek started his walk to the park where the summer camp was. On his way, he ran into Eric. Eric wasn't a part of the summer camp. Instead, earlier that morning, he had ridden to the park and was literally harassing all the kids there so much the camp leader told him to leave.
Oh, my God.
Because of his disruptive behavior.
Yeah.
This made Eric really mad because he just felt always excluded, always told to leave, always told to shut up. He felt like a victim all the time. And when he was riding his bike, he's so enraged. He thinks, I want someone else to feel like I feel. I want someone else to be the victim. Because he just couldn't understand why everyone hated him so much.
And he had to take it out on somebody.
He had to take it out on someone else. That's how he felt.
Especially somebody everybody likes.
I don't think it was about that, but we'll get to...
Okay.
He says his reasons later as an adult.
God.
His emotions were boiling over when he came across 4-year-old Derrick Robie. When he saw Derek, Eric thought he'd like someone else to hurt, not him. He wanted to overpower and hurt someone smaller than him, and Derek presented him with the perfect opportunity for this. This is where most of our trigger warnings come into play. So if you need to click away now because you're upset by violence on a child, this is one of the most brutal attacks I've ever researched.
Can I click away?
You may not, and I am sorry. But if you need to, I totally understand. So this is your last warning. Eric rode his bike around the little boy, trying to entice him into interaction by calling out, hey kid, hey kid, hey kid, hey kid, like that. Now, Derek had been warned about stranger danger by his parents, and even though it was another child, he typically children will trust other children.
Absolutely.
But Eric's much bigger than Derek. He's 13. He's almost a whole decade older than him. And to him, he looks big. And so he just keeps his head down and keeps walking, hoping he'll go away. But Eric kept pestering him, cajoling him, and he was promising him, hey, it's okay, I'm a kid too. He's like, I just want to show you a shortcut. I know you're going to summer camp. I'm going there too, but I know a shortcut. I'll show you. And in that way, he convinced Derek to go off with him. Eric abandoned his bicycle and led Derek into a dense wooded area, kind of like a green belt. Once they're out of eyesight, Eric immediately attacked the little boy. He grabbed him by the neck and started trying to strangle him. But much to Eric's surprise, Derek fought back. As much as a little 4-year-old boy can do.
Baby.
He kicked, he's clawing, and he was able to break free, but only for a moment. Eric was on him again in an instant, once more strangling him, and after about 30 seconds of having both hands around his neck, poor little Derek just fell to the ground, gasping for breath. As the little boy struggled to regain his breath, Eric grabbed his lunch and just emptied it all around him, like in a mocking way. Then he found a paper napkin in the bag. And this he stuffed into Derrick's mouth, trying to strangle him with it, trying to choke him. Desperately trying to fight back, Derrick bit down hard on Eric's fingers as he was shoving the napkin down his throat. But instead of making Eric stop, it really spurred him on. But not even out of anger. He was just really into it. The struggling, all of it. It made him relentless. The attack became more violent after that. Eric grabbed a large rock and bashed Derrick over the head with it 3 times. By this point, little Derrick was no longer moving and was either dying or unconscious. When the little boy lay there, Eric found a much larger rock. He found one that weighed 26 pounds. He had great difficulty picking it up. But he managed, and then he stood over Derrick and dropped this rock on him from above his head. And then he did it twice more. The injuries this little boy suffered were horrific. He had brain swelling, a brain bleed, a perforated bowel, cuts and scratches all over his little body. After doing this, Eric started pawing through Derrick's lunch. He drank some Kool-Aid and then poured the rest into Derrick's wounds. But he wasn't done yet. And this is really bad, y'all. He fished around, like in the area looking around, and he found a stick.
No.
And he pulled his pants down and he sodomized him with it. Now, he was already dead. Yeah. He was past the point of suffering, but he wanted to humiliate him. After he was done brutalizing the boy, Eric dragged him further into the woods and posed his corpse. He took off the little boy's shoes and he placed the left shoe by his right hand and his right shoe by his left hand, and I do not know what the significance of that was, and I couldn't find out. But I think it's very clear that had Eric not been caught, he would have gone on to become a serial killer.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. No doubt.
Eric mashed all of Derrick's lunch in a rage. He just wanted to keep destroying. I don't know why that bothered me. It's like you couldn't even just leave him alone, you know? In any way. He cleaned himself up because he had blood on him, obviously. Yeah. And he got his bike and he headed back to the park like nothing had happened. But after a little while, he wanted to make sure that Derrick was dead. So he went back. And he was, of course, deceased. Over the next few hours, he visited the body several times. And at this point, he said he felt no remorse. Just sick pleasure in what he'd done. He felt kind of proud of himself. He was no longer visiting the body to make sure little Derrick was dead. He was admiring his handiwork and reliving the moment, which he got pleasure from, sexual pleasure from.
No.
It was afternoon, and I do mean like after 12 p.m., and it started to rain heavily, so all of the camp leaders were sending the kids home. And Doreen noticed that all the kids were coming home, so she was looking for her son. Now, this is really interesting. I mean, it's horrifically sad, but I found it interesting. She said that around 9:30 that morning, she got this terrible feeling like cold water was dumped over her head. She felt sick to her stomach, and to this day, she believes that she felt when her son was killed. And I believe
that's
that.
about the right time.
Mm-hmm.
God, poor baby. Poor mama.
When she didn't see her boy with the rest of them kids, she knew. She knew something horrible had happened. She immediately called the police, and the community sprung into action right away.
Well, yeah, it's the mayor.
And everybody was out looking for him, even Eric's family. And Eric, too. He started inserting himself repeatedly into this case. At 3:45 p.m., a scream was heard from the Greenbelt. A woman who had joined the search party had found the badly battered body of Derrick Robie. Naturally, at first, everyone thought that the murderer Was an adult, a stranger from outside of town, a sadistic pedophile? Police questioned everyone who was around that day, including all the neighborhood children. This included Eric, and he placed himself in the area. He started making himself important in the case. Now, after police had interviewed him, and this was a very short interview, and he's like, I don't know, I didn't see anything, He's like, I might have saw him for a minute, I don't know. Tammy noticed that Eric was behaving very strangely. Now, until he was confessed to her, she didn't believe he did it, and she didn't even really believe it after that. She had a really hard time believing it. I think she knew immediately. I think she knew deep down, subconsciously, because of this. So Eric's acting kind of strange. He's being very closed off. He seemed uncomfortable. And she believed then that he must have witnessed something. So she called the police to have them talk to Eric again. So this time he told police that he had in fact seen Derrick at 9:15 a.m. as he was riding his bike to the park. But that was it. The police asked for details, specifically like what was Derrick wearing, and for some reason Eric was very uncomfortable with that question. At first he said he couldn't see that well because he'd forgotten his glasses that day.
But he can't see without his glasses.
Not at all. Not at all.
How is he riding a bicycle without his glasses?
Yeah, that's exactly what the police thought. Then he went into excruciating detail over what he was wearing. He was wearing shorts and a Tasmanian Devil t-shirt because that was his favorite cartoon character. And he knew. He knew everything that he was wearing, down to his socks. Because, of course, he did. He had burned the images of what he'd done in his mind because he kept replaying it over and over in a sick way. So, he's being inconsistent. And the police at the time don't suspect him of killing the child.
Because he is, in fact, a child himself.
Exactly. They do believe it's an adult, but they do think he witnessed it. They even suspect maybe it was an older teenager. And Eric had palled around with him and then had seen something and felt too intimidated or scared to tell them because he was acting squirrely as hell. Mm-hmm. So police asked him if he'd be willing to reenact his seeing Derrick. Like, can you ride your bike by us and show us exactly where he was standing, where you rode your bike?
Yeah.
And they did that. And they made him do it without his fucking glasses.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he could not describe anyone on the side of the road. He couldn't even drive his bike in a straight line.
Yeah. So I thought.
The police knew he was lying. But they just didn't know why. Again, at this point, no one suspects that he's the killer. They just thought he knew more than he was telling them. They bring him in for further questioning and offer him a glass of red Kool-Aid to drink. Now, I gotta pause for a second on this. Not because I'm mad at the police. I'm not. But I think they're lying out their ass that they didn't suspect this kid at this point. That they gave him the Kool-Aid when they knew Kool-Aid had been poured in the wounds.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
They wanted to see how he'd fucking react.
Oh my God.
Uh-huh.
Because that detail probably wasn't released.
It was not released to the public at all.
So did he react?
Yeah, he freaked the fuck out and threw the glass on the ground.
Wow. What the fuck?
But don't tell me they didn't suspect him. Yes, they did, or they wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
During the interview, Eric volunteered out of nowhere, and I quote, "I'm not the type of person to kill or sexually molest anyone." The police had not put in the details of Derrick's death in the public, so he shouldn't have known that Derrick was sodomized with a stick.
Right.
Unless he had been there.
Right.
Police kept pressuring him, asking for more information, and Eric snapped, saying, "You think I killed him, don't you?"
Yes. Yes, I do.
But, I mean, they didn't have enough evidence.
Yeah.
They didn't have a confession. They let him go home. Of course they did. The investigation continued, and Eric continued to behave really strangely. He kept changing his story about what he witnessed. Eric then took to asking every adult around him multiple times what the punishment would be if the murderer was a child.
Oh, that would make me just instantly
Make
vomit.
my blood fucking run cold.
Yeah.
Well, it did make his family's blood run cold because his mother staged kind of an intervention.
Oh, well, at least she did something.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. But shit, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Because first, he doesn't want to be at home, Eric, so he is staying over to family friends. And they had a 15-year-old son who was actually very nice to Eric, who tried to help him because he was bullied so much. He was just a nice kid.
Yeah.
And this kid's name was Jason. And Eric stayed the night, stayed in his room, just like kids do.
Yeah.
And he woke up in the middle of the night. And he was kind of freaking out. So he decided to smoke a cigarette, which is just insane to me that he's smoking, but okay. And he was watching Jason as he slept.
Smoking a cigarette in his room?
Yeah.
God.
Oh, no, he lit up anywhere and everywhere. He didn't give a fuck.
Wow.
And he looked at him and was just filled with rage again. So he took his lit cigarette and held it down onto Jason's nose.
Oh my God.
Giving him 2nd and 3rd degree burns.
On his nose?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
So it was after this. It's all the weird behavior, saying the weird shit, burning this other kid for no reason. And so that's when Tammy had this intervention. And this was both of his grandparents. It was Ted, it was Tammy, and it was his great-grandfather who had been a former police chief.
Wow.
Everyone believed at this point that Eric had witnessed the murder and was traumatized by it, and that's why he was acting weird. So the adults started pressuring him for information, pressing him. They spent over half an hour grilling this kid. And he didn't say a fucking word. But finally, he snapped. He looked at his mother and said, "It was me. I did it. I snapped and I did it. I'm sorry, Mom. I killed that little boy."
Oh my God.
Now, we can hate Tammy all day long, and I do, but I cannot imagine hearing that come out of my child's mouth. The horror. Eric's great-grandfather was the one to call police, because obviously,
Yeah.
and they came to get him, and in interrogation, he gave a full confession. As he recounted what he'd done, police noted that every word he spoke, he became more and more visibly excited.
Ew. Like he was proud of himself. He was excited to tell them what he did.
Just very excited, like a kid talking about Christmas.
Oh my God.
At his trial, I will show pictures on our Patreon, y'all. All of our pictures on Patreon are open to the public to look at because I didn't take them. So I want you to look at, he is just dead eyes, just dead expression on his face. Nothing. A year later, Eric would go on trial for first-degree murder. This was, of course, a media fucking circus. It always is.
Yeah.
And as they do, the media gave Eric a nickname, and I fucking hate when they do this. I wish they'd fucking stop.
Right.
They called him the freckled face killer. Now, of course, I include these in my title, even though I hate them. It's so that people can find the episode and listen to it.
Right.
But I just want to say, I hate this shit.
Mm-hmm.
They can just use his name. That's enough.
But people don't remember names. They remember like catchy catchphrases.
Well, it's not the purpose of reporting on this for that.
Right.
His defense attorneys argued a bunch of stuff, and I'm going to list it. Some of it I agree with, and some of it I fucking don't. Diminished capacity. And that Eric didn't really know what he was doing. I disagree.
No, he knew what he was doing.
I disagree that he didn't know what he was doing. I do agree that he's under diminished capacity. Anyone under the age of, fucking 18? Even like some 18-year-olds. I don't think their brains are not fully developed. He had developmental issues. He had behavioral problems. I don't know what he's been diagnosed with today, but I guarantee you it's a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And he was raw dogging it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, nicotine addiction. They literally tried that in his fucking defense.
Are you serious?
Yes, I am. That it led to rages. And I don't fucking think so.
I have too much to say about that, and I don't want to say any of it because it makes me mad. It makes me want to punch things.
Yeah.
I go punch a tree about it.
And of course, the bullying.
I mean, that's not a good defense, but it is fucked up, and it does lead to PTSD and all kinds of shit.
I was bullied out of a school. I had to change schools. I was bullied so bad. They were like throwing rocks at me and shit. I ain't killed nobody, and I never wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't it. I think we should look at the parents, and he was emotionally, physically and sexually abused. His father abandoned him, and his mother's medication damaged him.
Mm-hmm.
I think a combination of nature and nurture fucked this kid up.
And biology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of therapy would probably help him.
Yes. Is more than needed.
But I do not think this person should ever be free.
No.
But he is.
That's what I hate about this month.
Yep.
This whole month.
Yep.
Oh.
He was sentenced to 9 years to life, and I'm going to guarantee that's because of his age. He was up for parole in 2004.
That's not very long.
No.
He served like
no,
10 years?
He up for parole didn't mean he got it.
Gotcha.
So when first put up for parole, he said that he'd gotten pleasure out of murdering Derrick. He also told the parole board that had he not been caught, he most certainly would have killed again. When asked why he'd done this, Eric said it wasn't personal, and it could have been anyone. He was full of rage and pain, and Derrick was just simply there. I don't know that I entirely believe that. I think he picked Derrick because he was small.
Yeah.
He was released in October of 2021 at the age of 41. He now lives in Queens, New York. He wants to work with children who have been bullied. And
What?
to that I say, fucking no.
No. He should be on, all of the apps with the maps and.
He should be on, but he isn't.
Oh, he's not scheduled as like a...
He's not a sex offender. Oh, well, they might have because of this, but he was already dead. I don't think so, actually. I didn't see any sexual offenses in his court paperwork.
Oh, that pisses me off.
And it's been long enough that people have forgotten his name. It's such a plain name, Eric Smith.
Yeah, there's no... Yeah.
If you said that name to me like a couple days ago, I would have no idea what the fuck you were talking about.
Exactly. No, I've actually seen several documentaries on this case, and when you told me the name, I didn't remember it because Eric Smith
it's so plain.
Is so normal and plain, and
I watched a lot of documentaries on this, and they were gut wrenching.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it.
No.
Watching fucking Derrick's mother cry, no. I cannot do that again.
I couldn't even get through half of each one that I was watching.
Oh, y'all, it's real hard. I am fucked up over this one. Like, I'm gonna need to lay down. Being in like the depths of the research for this, y'all just crying the whole time. Yeah. Because I can't not have empathy for Eric. He was a little boy too. Yeah. And they just fucked him up. Yeah. And it's such a waste, and it's such a shame.
I mean, he was special needs at that point. He really was.
Definitely was. And he never got anything. He didn't get any therapy. He didn't get
a break in life at all, ever.
He just got kicked.
No wonder he was driven to this.
And kids at that age cannot regulate their emotions. Everything feels bigger than it is. Everything feels like the end of the world. So yeah, I don't think he knew what he was doing, because he's asking adults later, will I get in trouble for this? Like, I don't even think it occurred to him at the time. So
I know that he wanted to kill, he wanted to hurt, he wanted to harm, but there wasn't any mental lines in the sand.
They wouldn't even get on to him for smoking.
Exactly.
So I don't think he knew what the fuck. I don't think prison is a place for a person like that. Prison's not a place for a child, number one. He did go to a juvenile detention center until he was 21, in which case he was then transferred to a prison. But prisons don't rehabilitate people.
No.
I don't believe he's been rehabilitated. I don't care what he says. He didn't get the care that he needed at any point in his life, and it disgusts me. And in every single one of these cases, the parents take their head and shove it way up their ass because their child's behavior makes them uncomfortable. Well, too bad. You had a kid be uncomfortable for forever now. And take care of your kid. They did not ask to be born. Shit's on you. And I think somebody should have sued the ever-loving shit out of Randy, who wouldn't ever step up to the plate and take responsibility for his child. Because I think that really hurt Eric. I think it fucked him up.
Of course it did.
Y'all. I'm going to do a very brief business time because I just want to cry and throw up. And here it is. We have a Patreon. It is really rad. We do an additional episode every week. So if you're missing that episode, we got it on Patreon. Yep. Come on over. We also have a tier called And That's the Tea. That's where I personally will do 1 to 2 15-minute like mini cases a month, and Willow will have her own thing. I think she's going to do like crime news or something. We haven't entirely decided, but it's very fun.
We're changing around the and that's the T tier, so that way it's more
value.
Yeah,
there's more value for it, because I felt like
we had given it enough life updates. We had done enough chit chat and
who wants the fuck wants? I don't even want to talk about my life,
because we don't have much banter in our episodes, and a lot of people were wanting more banter, so we started that tier as a banter tier.
But I just sitting there, like, it's really hard, y'all. Like, banter is supposed to be organic and flow, and like I felt like there wasn't a lot of room for banter. To just sit down and go, okay, I'm just talking. Yeah. That doesn't feel like a good value to me.
Or like elaborating on other episodes that we had just covered. Once we're done talking about it,
I'm real done.
Especially the really gory shit. It's like, we never want to talk about that.
I never want to fucking talk about this case as long as I live.
But she comes across a lot of like random cases that are like shorter. And then I come across a lot of like, just by scrolling, I just like come across some of the weirdest shit in like, news and
so we'll share that. I think that's a better value, personally.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have higher tiers that kind of, if you want, you don't have to do it every month, but if you wanted to support us a little extra hard one month, we have higher tiers so you're able to do that. In addition, we have merchandise, and y'all, it's the holidays. You've got a Cruelty fan in your family?
Girl, get you some. Our merch is so good.
It really
It's really good quality too.
Yes.
The t-shirts are exquisite. I love mine, and it looks brand new, and I've had it for over a year.
Right. I've washed it a bajillion times. I do my laundry every week, so I always wash it because I wear it every week because I like my podcast. I know it's cringe. I don't care. And it looks just like the day I bought it. No difference. It is very high quality. I spent a long time researching on where to get our merch made, so I'm pretty happy with our merch.
And our cups, the stuff doesn't come off the cups whenever you wash them. I've had a lot of like printed on.
Yeah, me too. And they are garbage
and stuff, and they always come off with the first wash, and mine has never.
Okay, and the last thing I want to talk about before I run away, which I'm about to do, is I have started a little something. I call it the Cruelty Creative Collective.
That's so cute. So many C's.
C. And in the C, what we do is, are you a small business owner? We are too. Let's get together. Let's promote each other. Let's build each other up. Let's give advice. Let's give links. Let's give research. Let's give tips. Y'all, if there's a small business thing, I've probably done it. So let me give my knowledge. I'll take your knowledge. And if you want in on this, please just email me, message me on Facebook, something like that.
Support each other. And that goes for other podcasters out there as well. I know we have a lot of other podcasters who listen. And, if y'all want to cross promote, if you guys want to do some interviews, if you guys want to do anything, like, just hit us up.
You want to be a guest on this podcast?
Yeah, we can be a guest on yours. Like, we're not on a network right now, and we're a small business, and so are you. So let's do the damn thing together. Let's build a community. I love community work.
Me too.
So, feels
good.
Look,
here's the thing. I don't consider other true crime podcasts my competition.
No, not at all.
They're my associates, my peers. I want us all to succeed. I'm not stepping on nobody. I'm not overlooking nobody. I depend on the true crime community to make this podcast, and it would be silly not to want to interact with them more.
Absolutely.
So the only thing I won't do, and I'm just going to tell y'all this straight up, I don't do these networking chats. I can't.
The chat groups and the chat.
Do it. Yeah. It makes me nuts.
Yeah, I'm not very good at group chat.
We're busy.
Yeah.
We are busy.
And then by the time I click in there, it's like a whole bunch of stuff about your dog and your house, and I don't know where I am. Yeah.
No, I plan on doing this as a Discord group. I think Discord's the best place for this kind of stuff because it's like a message board.
Yeah.
So you don't have to feel the pressure of always being on or always responding. You can respond hours later. It doesn't matter. It's a good place to have we can separate like talk that's like if you want to talk about your dog, we'll have a non-business chat.
Yes.
Off topic.
Yes.
And that way we can still be cute and be friends.
I love being organized.
But it's organized. So if you're interested in getting in on this, please message me either via email, on my email, which will be in the description, or you can hit me up on Facebook. I do check my other folder. I try and check every day because I get a lot of messages. If I don't answer right away, I didn't see it. I get I get 50 emails a day at least, and not just related to this podcast. I do a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, you do.
Yes, I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes things get lost in the shuffle. I will never ignore you.
Yeah.
That will never happen.
Yeah. So if you feel like you've gone unnoticed, just message again. Just be like, hey.
And my advice, get me on Facebook.
Yeah.
Get me on Facebook. Because my spam folder is a dick. Even people I've replied to, it's just like spam.
Yeah.
And then it sends the spam to my inbox. Very frustrating. So, hey, yeah, if you need to get a hold of me, that's the best way. Just keep pestering me. I will answer.
Yeah.
I am not ignoring you. I need a secretary, but who has the money? Not me.
Yeah.
I need a clone.
I was about to say, you need like 15.
I need a couple me's.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, we date.
Mm-hmm. I know, I was thinking about that about myself.
I was like, oh, we date. I'm so cute.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a good cook.
Yeah.
And we're all the same size. Oh my
Yeah.
God. It's a lesbian dream come true.
Oh, I'll just make out with the mirror.
I'm not going to go
That's a
that
little
far. I
weird.
wasn't even
That's a little weird.
That's a little weird.
I won't
You're
do
making
that.
it weird now. I'm judging you. Anyway, thank you all so much for the endless support. And can I just say this real quick?
Yeah. I know.
So
what you're
Maris
gonna say.
started his new podcast,
Mhm.
Reality, and y'all downloaded it. And that means a lot because he expected no one to listen. And it is
Y'all
so
did.
nice. So if you want to check that out, I have a link in the description for that too. Like, even if you don't listen, if you just want to download it, it would just make them feel good. But you want to listen because it's so funny. It was so funny. I died.
Oh,
He is
I'm
so
so proud of
hilarious.
him.
Me too. Best husband. All right. Thank you all so much. Appreciate you more than words. Good night. Us on your social media platform of choice. Linktree/cruelty has all of the links. Check out our Patreon for exclusive episodes, merch, ad-free episodes, live ghost hunts, and much more. Please be sure to subscribe. New episodes are uploaded weekly. Thank you so much. See you next time. Music and production by Libby.